Hi guys, in this video we're going to take a look at a user-defined function that will find the first or last weekday in a month. Before we do that, go to VBA There's almost 28 hours of free video that'll teach you everything you need to know about Excel from the very beginner to the very advanced. And put your email in here and you can receive an email when new videos go up. So let's get started. So in a couple of videos, let me just show you where they're at on the website here. Close this down. On the website, there is, under the Excel VBA video library here, there is this user-defined function area. And there's a bunch of functions that you can put in Excel, like to find the nth day of month or the days in month. So these two here, nth day of month and days in month, are what you see right here. So this is the nth day of month function. It gives you like the third Sunday in June. This specifies the third. 1 specifies Sunday, 6 specifies June, and then A2 specifies the year that you want that in. So you could find things like that, like what's the third Tuesday in April 2004. You could find it if you wanted to by using that function. And then we did another function in another video called count of days that will return the number of days in a month. So in 2011, which is January 2011, there were 31 days. But then you can exclude things. So if you set this exclusion parameter, which is this parameter here, if you set this parameter to 0, then you don't exclude Saturdays or Sundays. If you set it to 1, you exclude Saturdays. If you set it to 2, you exclude Sundays. And if you set it to 3, you exclude both Saturdays and Sundays. So if you don't, if you need to say find out how many days are there in January 1996, but exclude the weekends, you could find that out using this function. So that was in another video. So if you're not familiar with these, go watch those videos which I pointed out right here. This one and this one. And now we're just going to continue that. Someone wrote in and they said they want to find out what is the first or last weekday in a month. So for instance, if I give them let's see, here's a month, here's a year, and let's just do this. Let's just do 2011. Oops, copy that down. So I'm just going to set something up like this. I got to format this like a number or general. So if I have this data now, if I have some data like this, what we want to find out are these two columns. What is the first weekday? Oops, I didn't do this one. What is the first weekday in January 2011? So here I have a month, right? Numbered 1 through 12, where 1 is January, 12 is December. What we want to find out is what is the first weekday in January 2011. So that corresponds to a name of a date. So here's a calendar that I looked up on the internet, and here's January 2011, and the first weekday is Monday. So that's what I want to return from a function. I want to return Monday. And if I wanted the last weekday in January 2011, it would also be Monday. If I wanted the first weekday in February 2011, it will be Tuesday, and the last weekday is Monday. So you see what we're looking for. We're looking for this day here or this day here in all the months that we want, because we want to find out that. The person wrote in, they said, can you write a function like this? So let's write that function. So first thing we need to do, go to the Visual Basic Editor, and you know, this workbook has all the code for all these. It has all the code for all these functions up here. Everything you see here. So if you want this, you could download the workbook. But what we're going to do is just expand on that by using a lot of the same things that we already know from using these from using these functions that we already written. So okay, let's start. So we write a function, right? Function, I'm going to call it first, last, weekday, and it's going to have parameters. I'm going to have m as an integer, that's going to represent the month, y as integer, that's going to represent the year, and then exclusion as integer, and we're going to return from this function. What are we going to return? We're going to return a name of a weekday, so that's going to be a string. So we want to have this function, after you write the name and the parameters, you do as string, the return type. So this is a return type, remember that. If someone asks you what is this thing here, as string, it's the return type of this function. This function is going to return a string. Okay, let me just write a comment here now that this function returns the first or last weekday. I'll put this in parentheses, Monday to Friday in a month. And here we go. A little bit more. This exclusion parameter that we have, exclusion equals 0. Well, that equals for the first day. So if someone passes in 0 to this parameter, then that we're going to take that to mean that they want the first weekday. And exclusion equals 1 means they're going to get the last weekday. Okay, so now we can start writing. So writing the code. So what we need to do is get a couple variables. Dim d as date. And then we need a dim count of days as integer, and then we need a dim I as integer, and we're going to set I equal to 1. Okay, so what we need to do now is if someone passes in a month and a year, as we saw in the previous video, what we need to do is create the first day for that month and year. So to do that, we have this variable d here, which is a date variable, and we create that first date by using the cstring function to do something like this, and the date value function. So if you want to create a date, you can create a date by doing this, date value, and then you have to pass in a string. So you would do date value cstring. Remember, cstring just turns numbers into strings. So that's what we did here. We take the month they passed in, turn it into a string, and then we append to it /, and then we do another ampersand. Remember, these ampersand join string characters. And then we do another C string, and we take the year that they passed in, put that into a string, and we put a /, and then we take oh, we don't want the year yet. We actually want this I variable here. So that's what we want. So now we're going to get something that if they pass in a month and a year, like 1/2011, if they pass in 1/2011, 1 for the month, 2011 for the year, well then this date value is going to have a value of 1, 1. Why is this 1 here? This is going to be 1 because we're setting I equal to 1 right here. So we get 1/1/2011 in a date format, with these /. So it'll look like a date. Okay, so once we have that, now we are going to use a select case statement to do some loops. And remember what a select case is. We want to test the value of this exclusion parameter. So if they pass in 1 or 0, we want to do something if they pass in 1, and we want to do something if they pass in 0. So a good way to do that is an if statement. You could do if 1, then, else if, end if, or you could do a select case. So a select case looks like this. You do select case exclusion, then you do case 0, and you're going to write some code, and then you're going to do case case else, because we only have two conditions, and then you do end select. So this right here is a select case statement. You're testing the value of this variable. You're saying what happens to okay, you say this. You say, let's look at this exclusion variable by using this select case statement. It says, okay, select this case for the variable exclusion, and then what happens if it's 0? Case 0, you could write some code, or else I'll write some code under here, and then you just end your select statement. So now let's write some code in here. So if they pass in 0 as this exclusion parameter, we want to find the first weekday in the month. So that's not too hard. All we have to do is write a loop statement like this, do until, and now remember, this date variable d here is going to have the first day, or the first day of the month. So in our case, if we pass in January 2011, this will have January 1st, 2011. And now we just want to loop until we find a weekday, right? So we do this, do until weekday d comma VB Sunday does not equal 1, and weekday d comma VB Sunday does not equal 7. So what we're doing here is we're going to start at January 1st, and we're going to loop until the weekday is 2 through 6. And why is it 2 through 6? Because when you put weekday d comma VB Sunday, remember what this does. You pass in a date variable, and you assign it another parameter, and it could be VB Sunday all the way to VB Monday, VB Tuesday. And what this does is say, what do you want the first day of the week to be? So it'll assign a number from 1 to 7, and 1 starting at whatever you pass in here. So I want Sunday to be the first day. That means Saturday is going to be the 7th day. So this is saying do until this d variable is not a Sunday and it's not a Saturday. That's what this is saying. So you're going to loop until that d variable is not a Saturday or Sunday. And what we want to increment here is this I, or actually what we want to do here in this loop is just copy this, because we want to test the value of this d variable. So we have to increment that in this loop, and that's what we're going to do here. After we create the d variable, we are going to increment this I. So we increment this I so that every time during the loop, right here is the critical part of the loop, this I is being incremented, and the day, the day that we're constructing, it starts off up here at January 1st, but then in this loop, this I gets updated every time. So the second time through the loop, or the first time through the loop, it looks at D and it goes, if January 1st is a Monday, is any day between 2 and 6, then it's not gonna even do anything in here. But if it is a Sunday or Saturday, then it's gonna evaluate it and go around again. So it'll be 6-2. And it's going to evaluate 6-2 and then 6-3 and 6-4, or I'm sorry, January 2nd, January 3rd. So that's all we have to write for this loop, is something that checks that the day variable is not a Saturday or Sunday, and then we're going to stop. Okay, so that will take care of the case when we pass in 0. So we should test that. Let me just copy this name of this function. I'll go down here and I'll do equals first last weekday, and I want to pass in a month. So here's my month in cell A20, and then in cell B20, and let me pass in 0 here. Oops, I spelled the date value function wrong, so I have to fix that. So I hit enter now. Oh, I spelled it wrong again. That's not good. Let me just look down here. Okay. Oh, one thing that I'm missing, I know I would create an error, is that, here's the end of my function, but I never assigned the function anything. So I need to do this. First/, weekday. What do we want to return? Remember, we want to return the name of the day. So we do first/, weekday is equal to weekday name. Now that's a function that VBA provides for you, and it'll give you the weekday name, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when you pass in a number between 1 and 7. And then, do you want to abbreviate it? I don't want to abbreviate it, so I'll put false. And then when you pass in 1 and 7, what is that gonna be? What does 1 stand for? Well, 1 stands for Sunday, so you have to pass in this VB Sunday again. Oh, this is if you don't know this function, weekday name, play around with it, but it's pretty simple. You pass in a number between 1 and 7. You say, do I want to abbreviate, like if you want MON period, or just if you want MON instead of Monday, or TUE instead of Tuesday, this parameter, true or false, will allow you to abbreviate. And then this parameter is the same thing that should be the same thing that you pass up here, so that the weekday 1 and 7 is, you could get the name of that weekday, but it has to be, you have to use the same parameter, VB Sunday. Okay, so let's try this. If I hit enter, sure enough, I get Monday here. Okay, so let me copy this down, and now look at what I got. I got January 1st, 2011 is a Monday, or January 2011, the first weekday is a Monday. Let's check our calendar. It's a Monday, sure. And February is a Tuesday, and March is a Tuesday. So let me check. February is a Tuesday right here, and March is a Tuesday. Yep, that's good. Let's do 2 more. April is a Friday. April 2011, the first weekday is a Friday. May 2011, the first weekday is a Monday. So Friday and Monday for April and May. So here we have April is a Friday, May is a Monday. Okay, so I'm going to stop there for checking it, because I know the function works. You guys can take a look at it. Now we have to finish the function by writing the code so that if they pass in 1 to get the last weekday, how do we do that? So let's take a look at that in this case else. And once again, this is, I'll just go back to this real quickly. This loop is pretty straightforward. You're just looping until you find a weekday, and the weekday in this case is the number between 1 and 7, where 1 is Sunday and Saturday is 7. So you're just looping until you find a weekday between 2 and 6, and then when you do that, the value of this D variable, this date variable, is going to have in it the right date. It's going to have a date that falls on a Monday to a Friday. So that's all this does again. Now let's write this loop statement. So this one is a bit trickier, because we have to find the last weekday in a month. So there's a lot of ways of doing this. You could do it any way, but the way I did it was, I said, I want to find the last day of the month. So I want to write a loop statement that will find the last day of the month. And then when I find the last day of the month, then I want to loop back from the last day of the month. So how do I find the last day of the month? Well, I do it this way, and let's start writing the code. I do until month date add D, comma 1, comma D does not equal M. And I do loop, and then inside this I want to construct a date, right? And I want to increment this I, just like we did before. Only this I now is going to, yeah, it's gonna. Well, yeah, this I goes from. It's gonna be incremented. So this loop. Let me just write this. So this loop finds the last day of the month, right here. This loop. Because we keep looping, we keep constructing a date, and we keep making a new date by taking this I variable and incrementing it, and then putting it in here, right here. This is the main point here, this C string I. That is going to be incremented all the time during this loop, and that creates a new date because we have a month that the user passed in and a year that the user passed in. So up at the top, they pass it in right here, month and year. They pass that in. We take a variable I that is initially has a value of 1, and we increment it. So if they pass in 6/2011, we construct a date 6/1/2011 right here using this I variable because I is set to 1, and then we go 6/2, 6/3, 6/4, 6/5, all, and we're doing that by incrementing this I. It's going 6/2, 6/3, 6/4 because this is a date variable we're constructing. And we're going to keep looping until the month of that date. So this is a critical part of this loop, is that this D variable here is being checked in this month function. And not only is that D variable being checked, but it's actually checking the D variable plus 1 day. That's what this date add is doing. So it's saying every time through this loop, look at this D variable and apply it this date add function, which adds 1 day to it. And then once you add 1 day to it, look at the month by applying this month function. And if that month doesn't equal the month that the user passed in, remember the month that the user passed in is up here. So if they pass in June, which is 6, what we do is we keep looping until we get to the last, this will get to, this D down here is going to keep looping, and it's going to get to, let's look at this calendar real quick. Our loop starts at 6/1/2011, and it's looping all these days, right? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, up to 18, 19, 20. It keeps looping. Once it gets to here, we have, at 6:30, this is the last day of the month. It gets to this point in the loop where D is equal to 6:30, and when you add a day to it, it's going to go to 7/1, July 2011, and then this month function will return 7. So you'll have 7 over here doesn't equal 6, which is what the user would have passed in, and that evaluates to true, so then you're going to stop out of the loop. So this right here will get us the last day of the month right here, using this criteria and using this logic in the loop. So once we have the last day of the month, what we want to do is we want to reset I equal to the day D. So what is this day function? Well, this is just going to it resets let me think about this. This is I. Okay, so this I this is going to be resetting I to the last day number. So this I here, once we find 6:30 over here, once we find 6:30, we want to keep track of that 30. And then we want to loop backwards until it's the same logic, until we find a day that is a Monday to a Friday. And in this case, we wouldn't have to loop backwards because we're already on a day that's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. But the point is, we need to know what day we're on. We need to keep track of this 30, and that's what this code does here, right here, this day. This day, if you pass in a date, it will extract the day. So if I pass in 6/30/2011, this day will extract 30, and it'll assign 30 to I. So once we have 30 in that value in that variable I, then we just do another loop, do until weekday d comma VB Sunday, same thing that we've seen. Doesn't equal 1, and weekday d comma VB Sunday doesn't equal 7. And then we're going to do the same thing, right? Because we want to construct a day again, but the only difference here now is that we're moving backwards. We want to loop backwards from 6:30. So, oops. So that's all we have to write here. We once we find that 30, we do a backward loop. So I'll put in here in a comment. This loop is a backwards loop, and what it does, again, it starts, we hold on to 30 and we set a date equal to 6/30/2011, and we start looping backwards. 6/29, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24. We're going to go backwards until we find a day that's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So that's the loop. If, say, for instance, we landed on July 31st, that would be our last day. We would have to loop back 2 days to find this Friday, the 29th. Okay, so let's test this and see if this works. So let me go here, and if I pass in a month, a year, and I pass in parameter 1, hit enter, I get a Monday. Okay, so let's check this. The last weekday in January 2011, it says Monday there. Let me go here. And it says Monday, and it is certainly Monday. Here's January 2011. February says Tuesday. Or no, February says Monday. This 28th here is a Monday for February. And we have, for February 2011, the last weekday is Monday. For March, we have a Thursday. Right here, it's a Thursday. And over here, we have March 2011, and it's a Thursday. Let's look at April. So the first weekday is Friday. The last weekday is Friday. If we go back over here, that's exactly what our function says. It says for 2011, which is April 2011, we have first weekday is Friday, last weekday is Friday. So you can see that this, well, let's look at one more here. Let's look at December. First weekday is Thursday, last weekday is Friday. And that's exactly what we have down here. December 2011, we have a Thursday and a Friday for the first weekday and the last weekday. So that's what our function does. Let me summarize the main points of this function. You use these parameters that the user passes in, a month and a year, and an exclusion parameter, and you construct dates using this date value function. This will construct a date where a date is constructed using strings, so you have to use the cstring function that turns numbers into strings. Then you use the ampersand to append these forward slashes like you need for a date, and then you do a select case statement that will test the value of this exclusion parameter, whether it's 1 or 0, and you do some loops, and you loop forward until you find the last day or the first day of the month that falls on a Tuesday or a Monday to Friday, which is what this tests, this criteria. This will give you a true statement if it's Monday to Friday, and then you'll you'll fall out of the loop, and this value will have the accurate date you need. If they pass in 1, if they want to find the last day, the last weekday, then it's a little trickier, but not too much. So we did a loop that finds the last day of the month using the same sort of logic, only here the criteria uses this month function and a date add function to look a day ahead. So we can look a day ahead to see if tomorrow is the first day of the month, and that's what this is doing here. And same thing, you construct a date and you loop, and then once you find that last day of the month, you loop backwards, and you loop backwards to find the first weekday, starting at the last day of the month. So this loops backward. I should put from the last day of the month to find the first weekday. So that's what this loop does down here. And then you just end your case statement, and you assign the value of the name of the function. So first last weekday, that's the name of our function. You assign that the value of the weekday name function, given a couple parameters. The D parameter, which is the most important one, because that's the one that's being calculated. And then, do you want to abbreviate or do you want to not abbreviate? So let me show you what this abbreviate thing does. So if I pass in true, and if I go back up here, now look at what everything does. I get Monday, MON for Monday, TUE for Tuesday, FRI for Fridays, and so on and so on. So that's all this abbreviate parameter does, is true or false, whether you want to abbreviate. So that's it for this video. What I'm going to do, like I said, I think these are cool functions, and the person who emailed in, I hope they're watching and they see this, because they do, they do some interesting things. You could find anything you want. You could do all kinds of calculations with these user defined functions. So it's really interesting to see how people use them and what you can calculate. So I'll take this workbook. I'm just going to upload it to Excel VBA SQL.com. I'll put it under this user defined function lesson 11 right now for the VBA library. And remember, you can go here and you could watch all these videos for free. There's almost 30 hours of free videos right now, and you could download the files if you want the code, so you don't have to write it. And remember, ask me questions here, contact me here through this page, and put your email in here to be signed up when free videos go up. So until the next video, I will talk to you later.